couple of you guys watched Interstellar this week. Has everyone studied up? Today, that's the scene we're recreating. The lessons, as you may have seen up there, this is our first scene we're doing on-set sound. So we're actually going to be able to mic people up and work around it that way. And then we're going to talk about grip because we're going to be shooting in a car today. So that lets us kind of explore some new worlds of grip and stabilization that we haven't ventured into before. But before we get started, we're going to go around and starting with myself, and then Carson, you can go. Name, where you're from, and favorite filmmaker. So I'm Jacob. I'm the president of the Film Futures Foundation. My favorite filmmaker is Christopher Nolan.
So, I'm Carson, and my favorite filmmaker, I also say Christopher Nolan, that or probably Steven Spielberg.
I am Noah Fisher. I'm from Butler, Kentucky, and my favorite film producer is no doubt Tim Burton.
Hmm.
From Hurricane again. Favorite filmmaker, Jacob Holmes.
Hey, I like that answer.
Moon was great, Captain America, and I guess I'll go with Nolan for Jacob too.
Oh, that's two? I got more than, I'm tied with Nolan right now. Don't break the trend. No, you three pick someone else.
Stop, you're gonna make him blush. Joel Haber.
All right, they're not. Go ahead, Nick.
My name is Nick Reiner. I'm from Winfield, West Virginia, and my favorite filmmaker, I like Martin Scorsese,
Good pick.
Nolan.
He beat me. Oh no, now we're tied again. I was beating Christopher Nolan there for a second.
Those are my two.
Okay. Jerry Buckner. I'm from Boone County. I'm a rapid. I live in Putnam now, but my favorite filmmaker, really, I like Sam Raimi. Just the way he kind of got his start, is interesting. I like his way he kind of been able to blend horror into a mainstream genre. Is pretty cool. So, but honorable mention will be James Gunn.
That's a good
I
one.
do like the comedy that he's able to kind of put into some of his movies.
Yeah. Last one.
Oh, I'm just a.
You got to pick.
I'm Elizabeth Fisher. I'm Gerald's grandma. But my favorite producer director is all of you people sitting here.
That's a good answer. Turn do not disturb on.
Flanagan is a good one too.
Huh?
Mike Flanagan.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, today we're going to be doing on-camera sound, or on-set sound, acting. So that's the overwhelming majority of the group is actors. Multi-angle shots. There's going to be 4 different shots we're getting. The scene is 21 seconds long, so it's 7 times longer than the scene we shot last month. So, and then grip. So let's start with some club announcements. So first and foremost, if we have anyone on the live stream, drop your name and your favorite filmmaker. And then I'd like, especially for you guys that have been here, the OGs, but everybody, Noah, you guys come from, this is your first meeting, but you might have a fresh perspective and stuff like that. We're coming up with plans for our 2025 year. What do you guys want to see? Next month, the leadership team and I are meeting, discussing kind of what our plans are, and we want to know what you guys want to help boost engagement and attendance and stuff like that. So what would you guys like to see? Yeah. No.
Some people are afraid of their face. It sounds crazy. So what if we try to go for voice acting, more directing kind of things, like voiceovers? So
Yeah.
with Brandon Wood.
Some animation aspects to it. We could do that.
We've got some talented animators in the club.
We have a multi-award winner as of this month. Anybody else? No? All right. If you have any ideas, most of you guys have my number. You can text me. You can message the foundation, anything you want. But we're also starting memberships. Right now, of course, there's no membership dues. If you have come to many meetings, I believe Lisa and Grace are the only ones that are in the membership group. But we're going to start newsletters. In that, they'll be casting in crew calls that we might get as a foundation, anything we are producing as a foundation, and then any announcements and stuff like that. If the foundation would like to start having more internal creation that's not part of the club, like we're doing a commercial this week and stuff like that, that newsletter will likely be one of the first, if not the first, method that we use to get cast and crew. So there's some benefits to that, and then there's other benefits that we're going to iron out that you guys would be able to take advantage of. We've been talking about like free headshots and stuff like that. So for you actors, that's huge. We've talked about, let's see, equipment rentals, stuff like that. So for you guys that want to learn how to work a camera, stuff like that, that's absolutely something you might be able to do. The more people we have that are in the newsletter, the better idea we have as far as what the perks of it will be. And if you want to receive the newsletter, let Carson know, and he'll make a note of that. Actually, I can tell you real quick. Nick, you're in there. Hunter, you're in there. Grace and Lisa, you guys are both in there. And then Noah, you're in there. So I think actually everyone here is good. But that should start in January. You'll start receiving. Ideally, it'll be monthly, but we may not have anything that month to announce. So, well, let's get into it. Do we remember? I think most of you guys were here last time. How to do a lighting diagram? Carson? Yeah, Carson's going to do our lighting diagram. But we'll do that later. First and foremost, let's dissect the scene. So we're going to watch the scene. Oh, stand by. So we'll play this a couple times. This is 20 seconds long, but take note of the different angles they shoot, and then the sound effects and the whole deal. Just take note of, pay attention to the lighting. We talked about that last week. And
How's this work? You guys come with? I've got class. This one needs to wait. What did you do?
Go tell you about it when you know the man.
Brother's not gonna be mad.
Not with me. Just please try not to.
Relax.
we're gonna watch it one more time.
A lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot to look at there.
How's this work? You guys come with? I've got class. This one needs to wait. What did you do?
Go tell you about it when you know the man.
Brother's not gonna be mad.
Not with me. Just please try not to.
Relax.
So, initial thoughts, if any.
There's a lot there.
How many shots did y'all see? At least 6 or 8.
Well, let's count them.
There's two obvious ones right off the bat.
Counted at least 4, I thought. 7.
So,
It was
I actually think 7 is
counting the inside.
the seemingly the right number, but from a planning perspective, if I can get my mouse over here. There it is. From a planning perspective, that 7 is actually 4, I believe. We'll go ahead and. Yeah, because you got to think. I know that there's 2 shots over Matthew McConaughey's shoulder looking at Murph, who's the girl. And then there's, I believe, 1 or 2 shots looking from Murph at Matthew McConaughey. That's 1 shot. It's 2 cuts, 1 shot. So when you plan it, yeah.
Did they change lenses there?
I don't know. Let's see. So this is your establisher. This is our first time doing an establishing shot.
How do y'all think that one was done?
Yeah, looking at this. We'll go into it a little bit more.
On a dog, because I mean you get like that slow push in.
Uh,
Looks like it's a still shot.
so
That too.
It goes like slightly ever so
yeah,
slowly down.
I would say that this is probably handheld. For our sake, it's probably on a Steadicam, but I'm going to say it's probably handheld. If you look at the edges of the screen, you'll be able to tell that there is a little bit of movement. See? Just a tad. It actually might be on a tripod because I don't. How much vertical movement is there?
How's this work? You guys come with?
I believe that is on a tripod with a slow pan left.
Well, and yeah, they might have done that. Did they introduce movement there? Because there is movement.
There is movement. They could have added it in post. For our sake, I think the best.
Somebody's standing there holding the camera and they take 2 steps.
Yeah, they could stabilize it even, and then that gives it that stabilization with a little bit of movement. Yeah.
I think
it's on the tripod because like the way that it kind of like
It does pan, yeah. The way that I've always found a tripod versus handheld is if there's vertical. This is easy to do on a tripod. So let's go back through and see if there's vertical. I'm going to watch up here right here, to see if we're going to be coming down at all. And there is quite a bit of downward movement, so that tells me it's probably handheld. And at least for our sake, it's probably on a crane or something. But for our sake, it's going to be handheld. So what's up now?
It might be something where
honestly they might have had a crane on set there because they just trained both the car shots also.
Yeah.
but they could have had like a larger perspective, have the camera zoomed in and like use that zoomed in area to go around.
I'm glad you brought up perspective and the lens and stuff. Do that handheld. I want you to see something. What do you notice about this frame here? Does anyone notice anything that might be a little bit different than how Oppenheimer was? Like the black bars on the top and bottom? So this is probably a 235 ratio. It's not 16:9. Maybe it might be a 185. But those black bars are something that personally I like to add in all my films just because it does make it a little bit more cinematic. But
Cinema, baby.
what they probably did here is use something called an anamorphic lens, which I'll pass. Ooh, if I have it. I actually don't know if I have it. An anamorphic lens, I don't have it. An anamorphic lens compresses so if you shoot like this on a regular lens, you'll have to add these black bars in post, right? So you're going to be covering up that much of the image. So you lose what's called vertical resolution. Anamorphic lenses compress everything, so you retain all that, but still get the black bars. Makes it a really wide. Yeah, right. You get a really wide shot while keeping your vertical resolution. A lot of filmmakers use them. Most notably is Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson? Transformers.
Oh, that's Michael Bay.
Michael Bay. Thank you. Mel Gibson was wrong. Michael Bay is most notable for using them. And a big way you can tell if it's anamorphics is there's a blue streak, horizontal streak, with the sun. Yeah, they have very, very special lens flares.
Now, what's the difference between a spherical lens?
Spherical's always shooting 16 by 9,
Yeah.
which fills up that. This screen is 16 by 9. So if we were to take a shot from this camera right now and put it up here, it'd cover up the whole screen.
It's also the difference between a circular bokeh and a more oblong.
Yeah.
The anamorphic will give you a more oblong bokeh.
We don't really have any bokeh in here. Yeah, I was going to try to point it out.
Yeah.
But that's getting off. But technically, I want you guys to be able to notice that it's probably shot on something that is an anamorphic.
You can get that kind of a wide angle with like a 35
Mhm.
as opposed to shooting it with 12.
Yeah, right. But we got a little off track there. But anamorphics are a lot of times they're used, and those black bars are part of it. So the first shot is that. Let's go to the second shot.
Come with. I've got class. This one.
What's the first thing you notice on that one? There's a very harsh movement right in the beginning.
This one.
That drop down, that's almost certainly handheld.
I also like, if you notice in the terms of the timing and sequencing there, that's probably 15 seconds, 20 seconds that they cut out there.
Yeah, the car's still pulling up, and then it cuts to him getting out.
He's
Right.
already out of the car.
Right.
Doors open, everything.
Yeah.
So,
That's something else we're going to keep track of. No, I believe you're going to be playing the guy here, so he'll already be out of the car when we start that shot. And like you said, they cut out some time. We'll probably pre-roll it and have you actually get out of the car so it looks natural once we put it in the film. Okay, and then there's that one, also handheld. I think this entire thing is handheld.
I actually think the whole thing was on a crane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just sitting right there.
Yeah.
So if anyone has a crane,
Yeah.
we will take we have tax deduction. That's all for you. So back to this shot. So now we're on 3 shots. So we're going to do handheld all the way down. This one right here, this one I'm excited to shoot. This is a 2-second shot, but there's a lot going on right here. For one, remember we talked about lens compression and focal length. These are very blurred, and this is, even, hey look, I don't know where this came from. Even this up here is out of focus, really only this right here is in focus. So that one there is probably, I would say, Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would venture to guess that's not even filmed in the car. I'd say that's filmed on her lap, sitting somewhere else. But we're going to film it in the car because we're going to have fun.
But take note of the greens. Okay, I think that's probably the thing
Yeah.
that sells that the most is the greens that they're pulling from the sky whenever they go to light that scene again.
Yeah.
Because they're in the green truck.
And
They've got the bad white balance with the cloudy sky.
yeah, it's very cool and tinted.
They also account for that in her shirt, in her clothing.
Mhm.
That's all pulling onto that sheet of paper.
And what does that do, Lisa? Color contrast, which we talked about before. But let's see. These two colors, this blue and this orange, are at almost the complete opposite end of a color wheel. So that allows a little bit of contrast and things to pop a little bit more. Always something good to take note of when you're staging a scene or something like that. Wardrobe is another big piece. And like Jerry said, a lot of time it's used in clothes. You can also tell he's got this orangish jacket. It's got an orangish tint. She's got this green. Those are opposite ends of the color spectrum. This could be used to signify a few things. It could be just to make the shot look good, but filmmakers have also used color contrast to show difference in life or development.
Striking across the scene right there. So if you look at his jacket, her jacket, the brick, and the door,
Yeah,
it's just stripes across the scene.
like that,
Yeah.
like that, like that, and like that.
There's only 3-4 colors in the whole scene.
But filmmakers will use that a lot of times, and I think it's intentional here because Matthew McConaughey is going to go to space and really never see his daughter until.
Colors, bro.
I know, you guys should all watch it. He's gonna go to space and not see his Murph, his daughter, again until she's about to die. So they're on different, and she didn't want him to go. So they're on different kind of levels, and I think that's one way that they can. That's one way you can show it is just by using color. Actually, there's another thing there, another piece of color contrast. His mug and his glove.
Yeah. It's that same green, too.
Mm-hmm.
Art department was going hard. Look at the car in the background.
Yeah. And the green actually might be something to the extent of in this part of the movie, the world is and there's famine and the world is kind of ending.
Gloomier than it should be. Yeah.
That, but I think the green also indicates that these two are talking. There's very clearly he loves both his kids, but Murph is his favorite. And I think that the world is a little bit brighter, everything's a little greener when he's talking to his daughter. And that actually, there's a few different scenes in the movie where he's talking to Murph, and there's a change in either his catch light or something like that. There's a lot of differences, and I think it's because Murph is his girl. So yeah, that's the scene. We're going to go ahead and dissect the scene real quick. And this is where, let's cast it first. So, I already said Noah. You're going to be Tom. That's his name. Grace. You want to play Matthew McConaughey or? Great. Grace will be Murph. Now, who wants to play Matthew McConaughey?
All right.
Yeah, you got to say it. You got to say all right. If you're gonna play Matthew McConaughey, there you go. What's his act, Cooper?
Matthew.
All right, favorite Matthew McConaughey movie. Ooh, that's a good one.
Okay, objectively, Interstellar.
Yeah.
I mean, my guy won an award, and it wasn't even for the movie. It was for how accurate the black hole was.
I mean, I get that.
I'm not kidding, by the way. He actually won an award for the black hole. It was so scientifically accurate that's why he got it.
I like True Detective. He was good in that.
That's a good one. Lincoln Lawyer. Dazed and Confused.
I don't think we're gonna need a focus puller on this.
I mean, if we're shooting it all handheld.
Yeah. Well, it's very little movement.
Yeah.
Hunter.
I pretty well got my job.
Sorry, I forgot a pretty vital piece there. I'm going to direct this, and the reason is there's a lot going on here. We're getting 4 different angles, so we want efficient changing of all the stuff. Grip is going to be Carson. Can you do grip?
Yeah.
Grip gaff is kind of what this is going to be doing. We're going to be shooting outside, so we'll just get right into the grip here. Instead of using lights, we'll be using flags and scrims. These are obviously used to diffuse and kind of spread the light out, so it's a softer light. This is, what would you say this is used for?
Shade.
Blocking the light, right. These are 2 pretty important pieces of grip stuff. That's a pretty small, this is I believe 2 by 3. So, we're going to be shooting in a car. So another way, and Carson and I have done this method before, is a furniture pad. We clamp that up to a C-stand, and we have a large amount of shadow that we can cast. So Carson's grip. All right. Boom operator and camera operator. Hunter and Nick are the only ones, so don't. You're the only ones left. So who wants what? First one gets it.
You want boom or cam?
I did cam last time. It don't matter there.
All right, Nick.
I'll do cam.
All right, Nick will boom.
That'll probably work out better for you because you'll get to see a little bit more about how sound and the director kind of work together.
What is boom?
We'll get. Yeah, we'll. Do you work out?
Me?
Yeah. Have you worked out arms recently? We'll get into that, Carson. Or not Carson, Nick. This will be real quick. Hey, Carson, will you come up and draw a? Actually, I'll do it. This is not even a real pencil. So we're gonna go through this. We're going to go scene by scene here, and we're going to figure out. We're not going to do the establisher. There's not a whole lot going on here that we are going to be able to
Control.
Yeah. So this will just be a plain shot on a tripod.
Now, some things that we have to take control of, okay? We are not going to get as gloomy of a day as they have.
Yeah.
All right? So we're going to take some creative liberties in our story. It's not going to be the same as theirs.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the establisher, we're going to have Hunter. You'll just really hold it. You know, it's going to be pretty simple. This will be the first.
You guys come with? I've got class.
So this is our first shot here. So a little bit of blur here. I'd say that's probably a 50 millimeter. We're going to use a 24 just because of the crop sensor factor. But we'll use a 24 here. What about this light? So do you think they're pumping in light? What's that?
They might have I can't think of the black flag.
A flag? Yeah.
Like hiding behind the car.
Yeah.
I would say there is definitely a flag on the back of the car.
Yeah, and
say they're pumping in light, too.
so they probably are pumping in light, but they have a cloudy day. We have a sunnier day. We're going to use the light that the sun is going to give us for our stuff.
Where are we going to keep the microphone in it? Because, like,
We'll get there. We'll get there. This is our boom op here. He's ready. So first things first, light. So we're probably we have no cloud in the sky, so we are going to have some harsh light. So I think we put a scrim right here to let probably on the windshield, honestly, let the light spread out a little bit. Give him this soft light, and then instead of a flag, Noah, we'll put a furniture pad across the back. This is, I mean, you see it here in a second, but it's like black back there.
Yeah.
So other than that, is there any other light features you guys might see?
I mean, think about where the sun is at in relationship to them. You know what I mean?
And keep that consistent. We have to keep that consistent when we light it.
Morning sun.
Yeah.
Because of how low it is in the sky.
Yeah.
I know we've already established that we're taking creative liberties, but do you think they might have, in post for that first establishing scene, do you think in post they like deepen the saturation to make it a little bit gloomier? Because it just looks like
Well, and that's the value of having a good colorist. If I was a betting man, I would say no. And I say that because Christopher Nolan is known for his practical usage of everything. So that would be my best guess there. But the cool thing about the colors and the cameras that we're using now is that you have a lot of manipulation in post to kind of color it how you would present it on that.
I would, looking at this just from a post perspective, it's a dull day, gray day. So that's gonna, I think you mean you're gonna drag the saturation down. Yeah, if it's deeper, then that yellow is gonna be real deep. That red's gonna be real deep. So they're gonna drag it down. I think, and we're getting off topic, but I think, and
I would say the whole
our resident editor can also help me with this. I think that in post, just from the coloring perspective, I think they probably dampened the saturation. On DaVinci, it starts at 50. I think they probably brought it down to a 35 to 45. And I think the contrast is also real low, mainly because Now this is also partially because of the screen. It's screen recorded, so it's not going to be perfect. But you cannot see the white lines on that. If the contrast was higher, you'd be able to notice that. So just from an editing perspective.
I also think it's a good example of how you would use post-production in storytelling.
Yeah.
Because by pulling the saturation out of these scenes, it conveys that gloominess that is on Earth.
In another way, I think they're doing that. I noticed this. I'm not sure if it's true, but I think there's a gradient mask, and I think it's darker over here because it's drawing your attention to the car.
They have negative field behind the camera.
They probably do.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a lot of negative fill that you would have to add. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a slight gradient mask going across. But again, the editing is
This is what you guys come with.
a little bit
Right there. Also think there's light getting pumped in from
Here?
Matthew's window,
here
from the driver's side, other side. From
on this shot, though.
Yeah, on this.
Yeah,
side,
yeah. I'd
pushing
say,
in.
and
And then I actually think there might be a light pushing in, like from the front on top of Murph.
Because of how cloudy it
Yeah.
is, and they established how cloudy it is
Yeah.
in that opening scene,
yeah.
you have the liberty of being able to use big lights and
Yeah.
stuff.
So for our cases, where we have a sunny day, I don't think we're going to need to add light. But I do want to draw your attention to that door because I am almost certain that is backlit because that is super bright.
Actually, I don't think there also might, where I just said there was a light on Murph, I think there also might be a light actually coming on to Matthew as well.
So with a car,
Yeah.
it's not one light going on to each person. It's going to be a massive light
Yeah.
that is
Okay, that's probably
on everybody because what you want to do, if this light is coming in this way and her light is coming in this way, well, where's the light source? So you want to make, the sun is everywhere.
Don't you think it'd be coming from Matthew's side?
I think,
Because the sun was
Yeah.
off
Just look at-
behind the screen.
yeah, I think the sun is, I think the light, if they're pumping in light, is over here. And because you can see that shadow.
And then you got this shadow right here.
Yeah, and that's a good catch there, yeah.
I didn't know if it'd be coming from Matthew's, like McConaughey's side.
See, that's what I
Because
thought
of
too.
the face.
There might be a fill light over there.
Look at his like neck
Yeah,
right
because look
here.
at the way it's
Yeah.
pumping in and then it's catching the side of her, but then now you look at it because where she's got her head turned, that it's hitting her face.
The thing with an out,
Shadow under the cup.
right here, yeah.
Okay, if the light was coming from his side, under that cup would be lit more.
Yes,
And
that's
so
what
You-
you look, also there's shadow under his jawline,
and under his
which would
right
show
here.
the light is coming opposite of his jaw right there.
And that could be the fill light.
It's lifted up like that, so it might hit the
That,
shadow.
this is, well, you also have to understand that we're going to be shooting in an actual car. Production cars are on a trailer and they are lights everywhere. There's probably not a roof on this. There probably is, but I guarantee there's holes that they can put lights in so that they can then pump light how they want. We don't have that. I like this thing.
Real quick, can you play How Tom Leaves?
Yeah,
There,
the beginning of the scene.
This one needs to wait.
there. Yeah, there's no doubt a like probably if I was to guess, honestly in the back seat.
What are you seeing?
On the back
Like
of
a
his sweatshirt.
You could
This here? I think that's the window,
Yeah.
look,
No,
look
not
at
the back window.
now.
Like
Look,
Oh,
look
yeah.
at the shadow underneath his
Right here.
his chin.
Honestly, I think
The
that
sun's up high.
I
Yeah,
think that could just
look
be
right
sunlight.
there on the side, kind of.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hitting him like where he's.
Yeah, but that's another. It's the sun. The sun's up high, so that's going to cast those downward shadows.
They've probably got a 20 by 20 scrim up there,
Yeah.
and every light in the studio blasting through it.
Yeah, they have a crane that's holding up a giant pad of light. So
Because when he gets out of the car right there, whenever he said it was backlit, yes, because whenever he moves, there's no shadow, meaning he's lit hard. Okay, you see how the shadow is not coming across?
they've got light coming this way. They have an edge light, a hair light up here, which is going to be that giant mat to make it look like daytime. Yeah. Yeah. So outdoor scenes are insanely hard to shoot well because of the lighting.
And honestly, they probably have a big V
Mhm.
like on both sides there.
Yeah. The outdoor scenes are hard to shoot, which is one of the reasons we picked this, is because we're going to really have to dig into independent filmmaking as opposed to having a 20-foot light that we can hover over the car. So
Where do we plan on like shooting it at?
I think we're going to shoot it right out here.
Yeah. And then you have to think. So if we shoot this after lunch, we're going to have
Sun's going to be that way.
Yeah.
So I'll just show you all.
I didn't know if you put it over there with the shadows. It'll
So over there we have a couple problems. One, if we want to make this, we want the door to be right there. You can't pull up to this door like that.
yeah.
So that's the reason we're going to do it over there. We'll be able to get a really good shot of that car coming in this way.
You're gonna come bring it like to the front of the building.
Yeah.
Almost.
Another reason we're going to shoot right here is because the reason we're down here today is because they are setting up for a CPR class. So they're going to be bringing CPR dummies upstairs in and out. So we might actually, there'll be people carrying dummies and stuff, but we might get some traffic in and out of the school. So that's another reason why.
Dead bodies being carried in the background.
Into the school, yeah.
I have a jacket that looks just like the Conway's. I don't know if that would help or anything.
They'll tell you about it.
Oh yeah, hey, go to that.
Yeah, I'm going back.
They definitely flagged Matthew or something.
Yeah, so back here, there's probably a flag or a furniture pad or something right there, giving him. But that's also can be done in post. You know, bring that dark your blacks up a little bit or down a little bit, and that'll do it out. But we're gonna try to do everything on camera.
Lighting really doesn't change. I think they also bring up the lighting in the back of the post.
Yeah, I think so too.
So lighting really doesn't change right there.
How old is this movie?
They'll tell you about it.
It's turning 10 years. Yeah. Yep.
Well, and we looked at a lot of different scenes in this
1.4
movie to
years
try to
on
do,
Village Plan.
and what we didn't want was it to be last month's meeting in space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's why we really
And
wanted to kind of stretch and see
We did
what
a
we could
crowdfunding
do.
campaign. We couldn't get someone to do a black hole. So unfortunately, we had to keep it on Earth, which I didn't realize after I picked this movie. Like, there's 20 minutes on Earth. The rest is in space and not really doable. At least from a set design perspective, because we can't really create a spaceship in the little bit of time we do have.
Get us an LED wall.
So this one, we're going to shoot this in the car, and that's all the scenes. The rest we've already seen. Well, now I want to keep it here. So this is going to bring me into grip. So this is the lesson. The grip department and sound. We'll start with on-set sound. That's how I have it laid out. So there's a few different types of sound capturing methods. Most people are familiar with a lav mic, which this is a small lav, but you'll plug I'll just do it.
Good audio equipment is something from an early filmmaker standpoint, it's worth investing in because, man, audiences will forgive a little in video. They will not forgive audio.
Yep.
I mean, and if you think of that, think about how quick you are to turn the radio station with any bit of static.
Yeah.
So
this is a lav mic. This is what's called a mic pack, and this is the actual mic. This is the lav mic. A lot of times you'll see this with a clip, something like that. I don't use that in movies because you can see it. So I'm not going to show you how to do that, but I'll show you how to mic someone up underneath. Now, there's a couple parts I do want you guys to see. The actual jack here screws in. Why might that be?
Pop out in case it moves.
So it doesn't pop out. So yeah, that's why. So I've had mics that just plug right in. They're okay for client stuff, talking heads, but if there's any amount of movement, you're going to want this. I'm going to show you guys someone that I mic'd up actually. So, like I said, you don't clip it on because obviously, if you saw Matthew McConaughey's jacket with a black thing, it's going to take you out of it.
Who here's worn a wireless mic for work?
I knew their hands would go up.
Okay. Oh, I didn't raise my hand.
One thing for you theater folks out there that's very different, and I don't understand why it's. I don't think I understand why it's different, but where does the mic go, Carson, on a theater? Yeah, that's the one I see a lot is right there, and I always think that's strange because it takes you out of it.
On Broadway, they actually have mics like in the stage. So Broadway doesn't have to worry about mic. Like if it's like a narrator or something along those lines, they're gonna mic up and
Well,
there's times where they don't even use mics like in the stuff.
the other side of that is so you can mix in the stage sound. You can mix when you're an audio mixer up in the booth, you can pull in those stomps into your mix and give it a more robust sound. Makes it all sound three-dimensional. And so then whenever you do like a live recording and you hear all of that stuff and you're the audience who's not there, you can be in the space. You can hear the reverb on the walls and all those things.
Yeah, they had speakers on all sides, so if they wanted birds to throw in from back there,
Mhm.
they had speakers back there, and they would only play it from those speakers and not these speakers.
Mhm.
So, like, there was a large war going on. There was going to be screams of terror, agony, and pain all around. But if, like, there's explosions on stage, then it's going to come from stage. But if it's, like, explosions, like,
In the background or foreground.
yeah, it's going to be everywhere.
I may not be able to find this picture. No. Well, I don't want to show with anyone in here. That's why I'm looking for this. Well, I can't find it. So, when you mic somebody up for a movie, you don't clip it on. What do you do with it? Does anyone know?
You tape it.
Yes. Now, there's a special way to tape it.
Or you use the body roll. Like a body bandage.
Yeah.
And then you can secure your
I thought you were
mic
talking about a
pack
different
in
kind
the
of roll.
back, and then you can put your mic in the front, and you don't have to worry about any cords or anything.
So I don't have
And
mine.
then if you have a lady talent, and say they're in a dress or something, they make a thigh pack, so you can strap it to the thigh.
Personally, I love miking up women more than men because women always have a bra, and that's the perfect. You can clip it right on there. It's much harder. I think it's harder to mic up a man too.
See, that's why I use duct tape. Just duct tape to
So
the chest.
that's what I was trying to show you guys. So my last documentary, I made him shave his chest. I shaved his chest, right
I'm
here,
very low budget though, so
right here,
I get kind of hardcore with it.
and you tape it. Hold that.
You can still count them.
I'm going to show you guys on. I'm going to show you on this, so there's some contrast.
Me knowing how many I have.
The mic goes, and you can see that's the mic side. That's where the actual input is coming in. That goes right where this is, pretty much right in the middle of your chest.
Yep.
Okay? But you don't want to tape it like this, straight up and down, because if there's any pull there when he's moving around or anything, it could either ruin this or it can disrupt the sound. So I take about that much,
Do a little pigtail.
and then just pull that up. and tape it here. This is loose, and then I tape it down here to keep the mic there. So there's two things of tape. You can use body roll. I actually have found that medical tape works. The stuff when you get your blood drawn, that tape that doesn't come up, that's really good for.
All like the sticky gauze roll.
Yeah, I had a roll
Yeah.
of it. But they're cheap.
Yeah.
It's cheap for one, and then you can buy, like I have a 6-pack of it. But that's how you live somebody up. We have the people here, and we're trying to get experience, so we're not going to be doing on-body sound for this. We're going to be doing
Boom.
boom. Now, this is a boom pole. On a boom pole, come here, Nick. On a boom pole, you put a shotgun mic. Now, we're going to go ahead and put this on there.
What is that? Is that the one they hold like that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You gotta make sure it just comes right into frame.
Every time. So there's a special way to shoot with a boom pole. This longer. You don't want to do it like this, right? If you're going over, you don't want to do it like that. So if I'm miking Noah up, I'm making sure where the frame is, and then as I go down, the director will tell me, "Oh, it's in frame. Go back up a little bit," and that's where it is. Where's the mic pointing right now? Yep. Is it pointed toward his mouth, or is it pointing in front of his mouth? Can anyone assume why?
So you have to see audio as a cone.
Yep.
So whenever it leaves your mouth, just perceive it as a cone.
Yeah.
Of
So you
audio
don't want to.
waves.
I don't want to be like at his mouth. For one, it won't sound very good. It's going to be. I think it doesn't sound natural. Is a good way to put it. When you're listening to someone, my ear is not in your mouth. It's listening to the cone of his sound that's coming out. Now these are very directional.
And it leaves room for you to capture some of the breathiness in their voice.
Yeah, that more
capture
natural
some of that
feel.
boom. You can hear that.
So, in this scene, when you're miking up like Matthew McConaughey, where he's in the car, you're going to be miking him up from underneath. That I did. I put start up here, and he'll go down until I say it's out of frame. Mic Noah up. Yeah. Okay, so now if Noah and I are talking, what's the issue with one boom?
Well, it won't be able to capture both audio.
Wouldn't be able to capture both. So the boom operator has a pretty important role that he needs to know where the script is. So he's going to be miking Noah up. Noah's going to be talking to me. And then so you should be right dead center.
Yeah.
Yep. And then it's just a quick turn with your hand. So yeah, I'm talking. Yep, that's good. And then Noah starts talking.
How you doing? Having a good day?
There you go. Yep. Now that's probably come down a little bit. But that's how you do it. You have to know where it's coming from. Yeah, I'm gonna. Boom operators. I know a couple that hate it when people go improv because then they have to almost like gauge where the next line is coming from. But that's a boom pole with a shotgun mic. Shotgun mics, well, any microphone. This is this is the sound. Remember how Jerry said think of it as a cone? So this is your shotgun. This is your microphone. Most shotgun mics are either supercardioid or cardioid. And that's what it'll catch. If you're back here talking, you're not going to be able to hear very well. So they're very directional. That way, if I'm talking and Lisa's mic'd up, then they're not going to be able to hear me whispering to my people, you know. Bidirectional, I think podcast microphones are generally that or omnidirectional. And then there's this is a typical shotgun. See how much that is? I mean, it's very narrow. It's where you point, it's where the sound comes from. And then, like Jerry said, these other shorter parts here help you get that background noise to make it feel a little bit more
Dynamic.
natural,
Robust.
dynamic. Yeah, robust. That's a good word for it. So that's why the pointing is pretty key. So, lavalier mics, lav mics, mine record internally, so I don't actually have to worry a whole lot. A lot of them don't, but mine particularly do. But with a shotgun mic, you have to connect it to an XLR cable, and it goes right back here, and then you use these Velcro straps to run it down the side, and this all runs into an audio recorder. Now this is a great audio recorder, but it is much smaller than what you would have on a film set. On a film set, the audio engineer has a whole bag with multiple different knobs and stuff that they're mess with levels.
Wireless, you're bringing all of your
Yeah.
you're bringing all of your stashed mics
Right.
into one place and mixing
Right.
it.
And then you're mixing. So I mean, this kind of does everything, but on a film set, you're going to have a dedicated like compressor. You're going to have a dedicated what's it called to edit the levels, mixer, all of that, and it's usually in a bag around their necks. This is what I use, and it's great. You can mess with your levels here. All of these. This is a sound input. You can take that off if you want to. But you can see that it has these XLR inputs. So Nick will be with the audio or with the boom mic, and then I'll probably be running sound and just off to the side, and I'll be able to check levels. And then this records to an SD card. So this is an audio recorder. And another thing is there's no power on this, right? There's not a battery in there. So you can provide what's called phantom power. And that means this is actually powering the microphone to keep it on. Sucks a lot of battery though. So that's your sound department. There's a few other things that we're going to use here that I want to go over. This is called a matte box. Anyone that tells you you need a matte box is lying, unless you're shooting outside. I was about to say, if you're shooting commercial work, a matte box gets you an extra 0. That's the only reason I have one. But the matte box goes like this, and it flags the sun so that you're not getting direct sunlight on the lens. Mine have this thing, which allows me to put filters in, which we'll be using today.
Why are we using filters, Jacob?
So filters, that's dark, right? It's like a pair of sunglasses. When you shoot, and this, for myself, I really like shooting low aperture. This lens, I believe, is a 1.4, so I mean it's wide open, a lot of light getting into the lens. When you're outdoors, that creates problems because it'll just be white. It'll be too much light for it to handle, so you put a pair of sunglasses over it.
Well, then why don't you just open your aperture or close your aperture some, Jacob?
Because of the magic, what's it called, the magic pyramid. Everything has to work in tandem. Your ISO, your aperture, and your shutter speed. Now on cinema cameras, shutter speed and aperture, shutter speed and aperture are in sync almost all the time. Or frame rate and so your shutter speed has to stay at a certain point. It's double. So if you're shooting at 24 frames per second, your frame rate is 48 frames per second, which is how many times that shutter is closing to capture everything. 24 frames per second is your motion blur. That gives you, if I do this, you can see motion. If I'm shooting at 120 frames per second, it would almost look like that. You'd be able to really see everything. Takes you out of it a little bit, but in all honesty, a lot of people won't notice it. But we are shooting in 24 frames per second because that's what movies are.
And we're also trying to keep the depth of field.
Oh, yeah. So the low aperture gives you that blur in the background.
Yeah, that's a good shot there for it.
in that sense
Yeah.
because you've got the
Blur.
focus on one central point.
But that's why you use this. What's up now?
So, is motion blur depends on the frame per second? Because, like, you move your hand like this, you can see the, like, motion blur.
Yes.
Because I can see my frame.
What frames per second we see at?
24.
Yes.
We see it 24 frames per second. That's the closest to our
23.98.
visual. 972
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah. 23.972 is I think what it is. But we see it 24 frames per second. So that's why they shoot at 24 frames per second, because you want it to look as natural as possible.
So we are simulating the human eyes.
Yeah.
And the reason we have to account for aperture and ISO and all those other things is because the human eye is way more complex than you could ever imagine. The human eye actually works more backwards than it should. When you look at the lens on a camera and the way that it pulls light in, our eyeballs are actually reversed. And so it's really interesting. And videography and photography is just the capture of light. All we're doing is capturing the way light frames an image. Without light, it's nothing. And so that's why when you're blind, it's all dark. You know?
It's not black. Yeah, it's not black. It's just nothing. There's no input. Right?
Yeah.
So some more pieces of grip of the grip department. Grip. I didn't even describe what grip is.
Grip is hands.
Grip is the department on a film or TV set responsible for rigging, supporting cameras and lights. So tripods, C-stands, light stands, Apple boxes, all of that is part of the grip.
Dollies.
Dollies, yep.
Yeah.
Now there's different types of grip. There's camera support, lighting support, and then just general. Camera obviously is going to come in and set the tripods up and set the dollies up or the sliders up, that kind of thing.
Because I'm sure you've seen on the credits a dolly grip, and you've seen
a lot of times the dolly
and
grip will also put, if it's a manual dolly, push the actual dolly with the camera operator sitting on it.
Yeah.
Lighting support or lighting grip is going to be setting up your C-stands, your light stands, your soft boxes, your grids, the flags, all that stuff. Some other things grips might do, they might recruit the crew and build out the crew a little bit. And they are led by a key grip, which is the boss of the grip department. The second in command is called a best boy or a best girl. It's actually a best boy, but now there are
best lady.
So for camera, well, we'll start here. With Apple boxes, this is an Apple box. I've seen memes before that say crew members don't want food on set, they don't want money, they just want an Apple box they can sit on when they're not working. Apple boxes are great. You can sit on them, you can stand on them, you can, I use mine a lot for my slider. I put my slider on them to kind of raise them up a little bit. You can do a lot of things with an Apple box.
I mean, you can stand talent on them. You can put your cams on them. You can put your
when I
lights
worked in
on
the
'em.
news, if you guys watch WCHS at all, there are many times that you probably saw Gina Marini, who's about 4'6", and she stood on Apple boxes sometimes because we needed her to be relatable.
In the shot. If you frame a shot a certain way and then she doesn't meet that.
Well, then she's mirroring a 6-foot man.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
That's just a solo Apple box. This is called a nesting Apple box. And it's got three, watch your fingers, it's got three inside here. That's a half. It's half the,
Why is it called a nesting box?
because they nest into each other. So that's a half, that's a quarter. You can see it's much shorter. And then, any ideas what this is called? Jerry, Carson, don't answer. An eighth, yeah, it's a pancake is what the eighth Apple box is called. It's called a pancake because it's real small. Some Apple boxes, and I actually just learned this yesterday from Daniel, have this thing on it. And somewhere inside of the Apple box there'll be this, and that's called a baby pin.
And now you can put your dolly head on it.
Now you can put, I've used this for lighting, I've used it for sound, putting
Good job.
Thanks. So now you can put stuff on here, right? You can put a mic in there. You can clamp onto this if you need to, which brings me to clamp mounts. But that's called a beaver, which I didn't know that. Daniel said, "Does it have a beaver?" I was like, "I don't know what that means."
Shout out Daniel.
Yeah, shout out Daniel. And then they all nest into each other. So those are apple boxes.
So you didn't even know that pin was in there?
Huh?
Oh, you just didn't know it was called a beaver.
I didn't know it was called a beaver.
I see.
Other ways that we're going to be using today. Now, I have a dolly and a slider. If you were here last month, you saw the slider. If you are coming to our shoot on Monday, then you'll see a dolly. Dolly is just it's a 12-foot track that I have. It's way too big to set up. We're not going to use it today. So I was like, I'm not going to bring it. But this is, we're going to be using this for cameras. So especially for the shot with Grace. The way this works is you can put this on glass or on car metal, and you pump. And there's a little red line here. I don't know if you guys see this. You guys see the red line up here? Pump that, and it's getting all the air out until the red line goes away. And then that thing is not going anywhere. Honestly, if I pull it, I would probably break the window before I pull that off. So we'll use that. We might use that for that shot with Grace where she's writing in her notebook. If we don't use that, we will certainly use this, which is called a clamp. Well, this part is called a clamp for obvious reasons. You do that and it clamps. This is also how you'll see today, I'll set up that audio recorder. And it has this is called a magic arm. You can combobulate it in all sorts of ways. You can put a camera on there. You can put a light on there. I'm going to put the audio recorder on there so that way I can test it, hang the headset up, and then go direct. Magic arms, clamps, they're all great. For Grace's scene, what I think we're going to end up doing is clamping this on the back of the headrest, and then putting the camera on this and angling it down to shoot over your shoulder onto that paper. We'll use a higher like a 85 millimeter lens to get that really close up. It's all right. We'll steal one from the church. We'll give it back. So yeah, that's a car mount. This is also a car mount. This doesn't have the pump. This is my favorite one.
I have a notebook.
Huh?
I have a notebook.
Okay. Was anyone here when we shot? I know Carson was. I know Lisa absolutely was. We shot a scene back in like May, but actually before that, and we shot a scene with Ron driving, and this was the car mount that we used. And you can mess this thing any type of way you want.
Well, and then our coffee shoot, we used magic arms. We used all kinds of creative stuff for that.
So these are just some of the pieces of grip that we use. Here's another magic arm. I'm going to pass this one around so you can look at it. This one's smaller. I use this for my gimbal to mount the monitor to it. But if you can tighten that, and you see the teeth close. Bigger stuff. This is a C-stand, and it gets real tall and real, it is real stable. It's got this wide base. When you do a C-stand, and you set up a C-stand, see how this leg is the tallest? You can see here the leg's real tall. If I'm setting something up pointing at Hunter, then that leg should be pointing at Hunter. And when you set it all up, you drop that on there, and what this does is that's not going to tip.
Any ideas why it's called a C-stand, anybody? Huh? So the C...
That's right!
The C actually stands for Century Stand, which comes from its original use with Century Lighting, which was an early company in Hollywood that made lighting equipment.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
And then this is a light stand. which you guys have seen in you guys know what a light stand is. There's also things called combo stands, which are pretty much C-stands, but they have legs that come up to like here, and they're a lot bigger, and they go way up high. They're just a lot more stable, a little heavy duty. I think a C-stand generally is 100 pounds of payload onto it, 80 to 100 pounds. A combo stand gets up closer to like 500 pounds. Those are just massive lights that you can put on those. Again, it all depends on which one you buy and that whole thing.
What comes down to the need also?
Yeah, I don't have a need
Yeah.
for something that can hold 500 pounds. So.
For sure. Especially when it comes to like independent filmmaking. We all build our kits out as we need them.
Yep.
And so most of us don't have the heaviest duty out of the gate.
And what are these called? This thing. Tripod is the answer I was looking for.
Why is it called a tripod? Anybody? Anybody?
Does anyone have a guess? Go ahead, Noah.
What you got?
Because it dries to.
Try means 3. There's your hint.
Because there's 3 eyes.
Legs, yeah, right.
Same thing.
Tripod on a film set, and you'll hear Carson, Jerry, and I only really exclusively call them sticks for obvious reasons. These look like little sticks. But if you're on a set and someone says, hand me the sticks, hand them a tripod.
Yeah. And then also whenever you draw it on a diagram, it does just look like you just made random marks on a paper.
Pizza and batteries.
Credit card.
2 or 8 AA batteries. Gas station or something.
I have those.
Oh, you have AA's?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Just pizza. I don't need them right now. Just when we film.
Okay.
And a receipt. And a receipt. Okay.
And a receipt.
Anyone have any questions? Questions? Ideas? While they're gone, what I would like to do is work with Noah and Grace, and you guys figure out a script. You don't have to match that completely. But I mean, the idea in that scene is that Grace is going in to get suspended, pretty much. She did something in school. She's, without getting into a whole political argument, she is giving ideologies that the school doesn't agree with. They're upset and all that. So you guys could, obviously, Noah, you're really only have one line, and it's going to be something like, he had a good line. I'm late for class, but Murph's got to stay here. And then you are going to have a conversation with Carson, which I think Carson is the best of our best option, but him playing a dad is scary. But maybe we flex it and he's your big brother. I think it's probably a better option. That way it's a little bit more realistic. Huh? Yeah, Nick doesn't want to act though. I don't blame him. I don't want to act either. He's the big brother, He's
Basically says, you can handle this.
Yeah, good luck. Right.
Wonderful big brother.
So yeah, once he gets out of the car, then we'll have Carson say like, "What's he mean by that?" Something like that, and maybe instead of like him saying, "Well, am I going to be mad?" Instead of that, maybe Carson says something like, "Well, is Dad going to be upset about it?" Something like that, and then you could say, "Well, not if you don't tell him." So you guys can play around with it. I think it's a typical enough scene. You don't want to get in trouble, right? That's your main thing. And Carson's worried about you. So I think there's enough room here for improv. Acting is, you always have a script just about, and I'm a big fan of improv. I think it develops you as an actor and actress. I think it gives you the ability to make character choices and stuff like that. So
as a writer, read the words I wrote.
But
and do it as I told you to do it.
don't go to the writer and say, I have this idea, do it. And then the director will say, how about we do what's written?
Nail it the first time, and then
Yeah.
you can talk about it. Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you always do the script first. But we don't have a script, so just cut right to improv. Yeah, yep. But I like having my actors make a character choice. They're going to act better if they identify with the character. So you're going to act better if you know a little bit more about how the character might be feeling, and what they might say. So just something, you guys don't have to like meet about it. Just in your head, kind of figure out kind of what you might want to say.
And some of that, from an acting standpoint, comes down to your confidence as to why you're on set. Okay? You have to be careful with that, because your confidence and the confidence that the people that hired you to do that job may be two different things. So you always have to weigh that I'm an artist versus I'm here to do a job. Because at the end of the day, they got a job to do. There's lots of money on the line. There's dozens of people. Those are dozens of paychecks that have to be cut. So you have to respect the time of the crew, the time of the camera, the gear, all those things. Especially if it's a union shoot. Man, if you're on a union time, you're going to have to be hitting your marks. I mean, so granted, this is all a little more fun. But that's, I think, the importance of the club, being able to come and operate equipment without the high pressures of the set and the industry professionals that are going to yell at you for asking questions, because it can be intimidating. I mean, it can. So
I will never yell for asking questions on a paid shoot or not.
you got in trouble for telling the Earth is flat?
So that's your focus. Now it has this in there. I'll let you mess around with it without that.
Hey, well, and the cool thing about I like Ben Stiller, especially from a director standpoint, because a lot of people don't know he's a director. I think he's incredibly talented, though, because of the projects that he's put out more than anything. I think Zoolander, transformative.
Transformative.
I really do. But Zoolander 2? So,
Yeah. So
but
you
even
mess
the
around
water,
with it. I use that as like a gun, I put that on my
Secret
shoulder.
Life of Walter
3 points of
Schmidt,
context.
some of those
main
more
thing.
in-depth
You could either
roles.
do it like that or
Even
like
Along
that.
Came
Yeah.
Polly, him and
We're
Along
probably
Came
gonna be
Polly, he's
shooting
fantastic. So
at a lower aperture, but you probably won't have to pull focus at all.
So this one's just contrast, right?
That's your that's called
No, I
iris
get
on a
it.
cinema lens, and that's how wide, or that's your aperture. That's how wide or narrow your. Actually, you can see it here. Look inside the lens.
Yeah.
early on,
so
how he was
that's all
talking a
that
little
is.
bit about the
The more
lenses
light
and the
that's coming in, the lower
squeeze
the
and some of
aperture.
those proportions and stuff.
And then if there's
So
not a lot of light
35
coming in,
millimeter
it's,
refers
so
to
when
the
you
sensor
record,
of the
you see
camera on
here,
which it was shot.
There's a red dot on the bottom of the
And-
screen, bottom left. That's how you're going to record.
No, I don't think none of us have a Super 35 camera here.
Dude, speaking of Super 35, guess what I got delivered while I was in this room?
Oh, did you?
I got my film delivered, yeah.
Well, so she was asking me, so she said the Nutcracker was filmed in 35 millimeter, and she was asking me what that refers to.
Yeah.
And it's the sensor. So, like that camera is an APS-C sensor. That's an APS-C sensor. My full frames are at the house.
Here. We can show you the difference.
And that's a full frame, and that's a APS-C. And the Super 35 is just a different sensor than those. And it just interprets the information differently. And with the squeeze and those lenses, it creates an ecosystem that is just different and unique.
So APS-C or cropped sensor.
I got to think, for wanting to bring more people
See how much bigger that one is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what they meant.
We switch up every month.
And so then
yeah.
the
last,
Super 35
last
is more
month,
square.
Carson was the director.
Okay.
But
So if you
the
ever
35
have, that's why
millimeter,
I,
I
asked if
think,
you have
is
an
the
interest,
difference
if you want to be a director,
diagonal across
then
the
after
sensor.
you come a couple times and see how
I
it
have
works,
yet to
then
dive
you can
into
direct.
that because it gets a little bit more technical than I'm
Right.
even versed in.
Like I said, the only reason I'm directing this shoot is because this is our first one with multiple. We have about 3 hours of time that we can shoot. So with these different angles and stuff like that, the director needs to be kind of
Alright.
understand a little bit of everything. And I think representing this room, Jerry and I are the ones that have the knowledge base to do that. But the idea is
When you was talking about
later
that.
down the road, everyone kind of has that knowledge base. I can't wait until Grace steps out in front of the camera.
So-
You know,
This was when he did.
Grace has been in front of the camera her whole time.
I would venture to say that might be an RELF.
The whole time.
That's what it looks like. That's probably $100,000 camera.
Jeez. And then when he was filming outside, they had all this.
Yeah, that's
So with that iris.
all rented. That's the cool thing about those
Okay.
bigger productions.
Start to,
Yeah.
Nobody owns
does that
these
what does it
cameras.
represent?
Oh,
Like,
wow.
what's inside?
Yes,
Just
that's the
because
focus.
I don't even think
Um,
RE sells most of their higher
yeah,
end
so
cameras.
the lighter
It's all
it
a
is, you'll be able to tell
production
more.
lease
She'll have an
system.
outline around her.
But-
You know.
There was that one.
So before we shoot, we'll make sure that all three of the people are in focus because they're all
Is
in
that
focus
the
there.
big thing
Yep.
that you was talking about?
Yep.
I thought I'd seen that.
And then
one.
so you see how he has that, or so he's got a back brace on, and that back brace helps him throughout the course of a long day of holding his arms up. But on the front side, you see he's got his monitors, he's got everything,
Oh.
and so he's even monitoring sound, and so he's doing all that.
And then this, I guess that's a tripod. I don't know what they were doing. I think they were trying to adjust that.
They were lighting,
Okay.
and so those are the lights bouncing off of that, and then that's going to give him front light and back light.
One scene where
That's where they were.
Matthew
Yep.
McConaughey's driving away and it switches in
That was,
the
we weren't allowed to take
aspect
pictures. I
ratio.
thought, well,
No.
he's in there somewhere.
What scene is that?
Before I
When
had
he's-
to
when
go
he's
downstairs.
leaving?
Driving away.
That was
Yeah.
as clear as I
shows
could
Murph,
get that one.
Yeah.
But you can see like the bars just slowly like go
And
out.
Really?
This was when he
Yes.
just
I
did
never
last
noticed
Wednesday
that.
when he did
Oh my
that.
Well, now I want to
Yep.
watch it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was talking about.
When he's leaving to go to space.
Yeah, when he's
That's
when
likely
he's
what's on
driving
either
away,
side of the
Murph starts to
car in
come
that
out, you
scene.
just see those bars
And that's what they're
slowly
using
go
to blast light through
Does it stay like
to
that the
give
rest
a
of the movie?
solid,
Yeah.
consistent source. And
Must
all
be-
all they're
I
doing
wonder
is
why.
manipulating the sun.
I don't know if that was a shade or not. But,
It softens it. It doesn't create a shadow, but it creates a shade.
okay.
So, but those are those little things that make cinema,
Right.
and that's what we try to teach and incorporate because having a camera's half the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Really destroys it, and it permanently changes the view for the rest of the
Alright.
movie, except for the very end where you come.
I'm
See, like
going
that's
to
always an intentional choice.
go
I've
to
never
lunch
noticed it here.
on our live
Yeah,
stream,
the
Jacob.
aspect-
Jacob, are you ready? Can we go to lunch?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go to lunch, everybody. If y'all have any questions about the shoot, we'll be back. I'm gonna say 1 o'clock. We'll be back. We're gonna set up everything for the afternoon, and we're gonna get to shooting. So
Oh wait a minute, it might have been a little bit before.
It makes me think it's when they're in space is when it might happen.